So you talked a little bit about some of those issues like gun violence. Well, that's a perfect segue into the next section of what I want to get into. Let's talk a little bit about some of the biggest issues facing your specific population of people that you serve, and let's talk about also some of the bigger issues you see on the state level as a state legislator, and then let's talk a little bit more specifically about some of the issues that we've been facing as a result of the murder of George Floyd. So we're going to break it down in three parts like that. Okay.
Yep. So some of the issues that we're seeing and that's impacting the north side and the state of Minnesota is this whole education disparity gap that we're seeing. And, we're trying to do our best over at the state to provide resources for our local units of government or, the Minneapolis School Board so that they could actually, do the work for our families. And I know that we have quite a few candidates running to represent the north side on the school board. And I'm really excited to see that because, they are actually from the community and they live in North Minneapolis and actually, work in our schools. And I think that that's needed. Because, in order for us to really address this issues in Minneapolis around our education system, we need folks who are on the ground level, who know our child, who know our parents and who have that connection. And so I really look forward to, having engagement with, candidates on all level who are running to represent us. And then, at the state level, trying to see, what can we do to close this gap. And for me, one of the big things for me that I'm pushing, and unfortunately we haven't been able to move forward, is having ethnic studies in our classroom. And I don't know about you, Elijah, but for me, my first exposure to ethnic studies or of any kind was in college.
Yep, same. Yep, college.
That's where I learned that we have, African American studies, we have Asian American studies. I did not know that exists. And, for us as a state to really move forward and address this, we need to acknowledge some the history of all communities in the state of Minnesota, and not just, the white perspective or the white narrative of what folks want, and so I've been pushing that. I've been working with some community groups, and so hopefully we could get that to move forward, and also supporting efforts to really diversify our teaching force. Right now, I believe only 4% of our teachers are teachers of color in the state of Minnesota, and so we need to do better.
Same statistic nationally as well. 4% of all teachers nationally are teachers of color.
Right, and we're putting, I could say that we're putting in money right now, but some of these teaching programs are not working because I don't know if they're attracting enough or retaining folks to stay in this profession. And I think that leads down to the discussion of how do we prioritize and actually make the teaching profession something that they are professional. And so we really need to pay them, for what they're worth, and actually, like the education support staff too. Most of them are coming from our communities, especially communities of color, and so we really need to find support for that. And I think that's the education piece. And then for another important issue for my community, growing up on the north side is our environmental health, where I'll be honest, when I was first campaigning, I did not believe, but the environment was not a big priority for me. But, my first town hall, back to that point, one of my neighbors came by and it was around environmental health. And she said, well, you really need to look at, what the environment is doing to us right now. Because my son, he was 10 at that time. He was going through the school system and he's on he has a, I believe, IE plan, individualized school plan.
Yep.
And so she was
ISP.
saying, she was saying that, this is costing us a lot of dollars. And if you don't want to address the environment that we're living in, some of the leads that we're seeing, in our homes, it's going to impact our school system. And that leads down to, impacting our healthcare system and, criminal justice system and everything like that. And so just trying to look at everything holistically, that's why one of my main focus over at the Capitol is environmental justice. Because right now, beyond the north side, right next to the river, we have some pretty big industrial polluters or companies like Northern Meadows who are, who have been found and who have admitted to the courts and lied and say that they have lied and, fixed around some of their pollution numbers. And so that's why they have been removed from the north side. And so just holding these big corporations accountable for, what they're doing to the lives of folks on the north side.
So with the environmental justice piece, right, I'm sure you know this now, but in North Minneapolis, there's a lot of properties over there, rental properties, and even properties that are owned by folks where they found lead actually in the soil. To me, that's just ridiculous. And I know it was a huge thing a few years ago. I don't know if they're still having that conversation right now on the city level, but actually going in and doing lead testing on all the properties that were there. I mean, because just imagine a kid outside playing in the dirt and now they're exposed to lead, and that slowly starts to degrade their brains. So it impacts their development.
Right.
So to me, it's just like, that's just a no-brainer that we have to figure out how to get resources to go in here and to perform these testing and find out where these large concentrations of lead are and to eradicate it.
No, it is a problem. You know, that's my frustration, you know, at the state level too, where we have this program where we actually give money to the city of Minneapolis, Hennepin County to do these testing. And, you know, what I'm trying to push our state agencies, the Department of Health, to say is that we need to lower the threshold for what is considered, you know, safe for lead, because, you know, even the agency have admit that there's no safe level for lead at all.
Right.
But, you know, when we're pushing them to say, okay, so right now it's at 5 parts per million or whatnot, why don't we just make that 0? But there's pushback on that, you know? And I just don't understand, if we have had a report or the study that said that there's no safe level of lead at all, why are, you know, our families, you know, before there's intervention of, you know, getting in to test kids, why are we leaving it at a level of 5 parts per million and not really addressing that there's no safe, you know, level of lead at all? And so I'm still going, you know, continuing to push.
Can I tell you why?
Go for it, yeah.
Because it's Black lives.
Right.
It's among lives.
Right.
You can't go to Wayzata and find the large concentrations of lead like that out in their yards. You won't. In the schools, you won't.
Right.
Because they understand that the minimum exposure to that is harmful to their children, and they care about their children. And we care about our children as well, but we don't have the resources that those other communities have to do it themselves.
Right. And then to that point too, that's why I had a bill last year in 2019 to prioritize how, you know, Metro Transit, you know, roll out their buses. You know, I want clean electric buses on the north side first, and then we could roll it out throughout the whole region. And one of my colleagues, you know, actually from Burnsville, he said that, you know, a Senate Republican, he said that, well, why do you want to give my community the, you know, the bad buses, you know, so or the dirty buses? They're not necessarily dirty, but we just want the Met Council to prioritize where they send the buses first, because we know that there's adverse impact on, you know, our environmental health on the north side and other parts of the city. So that we're not just saying, you know, just give it to north side. We want to prioritize that to the north side, the east side, St. Paul, you know, West
areas
St. Paul.
that use the bus system the most, the transit system the most.
And that we actually have, you know, poor air quality there. And so, you know, just reprioritizing everything. But, you know, I actually got pushback from Republicans saying that, why are you giving me the dirty buses for my community? And so that's, you know, some of the fights that we have to deal with over the Capitol. And, you know, it's unfortunate that people are, you know, to your point, exactly, you know, because of the residents that I serve, you know, are mostly blacks and, you know, communities of color, they don't want to give us resources. And I think that, you know, is a good segue to, you know, the Upper Harbor Terminal projects where I'm supporting.
Let's get right into it. I had that on the list to go. We'll loop back to the other stuff. Let's get right into the Upper Harbor Terminal project. Then let's go.
You know, for me, I really want that project to bring resources to the north side so that we have some amenities.
Yeah.
And I understand some of the concerns around gentrification and, you know, pushing, you know, black and brown folks, you know, immigrant community members out of on the north side. And so that's why I really want the city and you know, working with the city to be more intentional on what they have.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, you know, they were able to create the CPC, the community group, but, you know, they need to do more than that.
Community Planning Committee.
I think so. Yeah. I forgot the name.
So many acronyms out there these days.
And, you know, I know that, you know, you're working with some of the people over there, you know, Kyle, and we have some youth who wants to be engaged. And I really appreciate that and want the city to embed that into some of their processes to really incorporate the youth voice and, you know, our communities of color into the process. Because, you know, I knew at the very beginning, you know, first when I first got elected in 2017, when they came and met with me at the Capitol, you know, that, you know, this is, you know, what we're trying to do around community engagement. I told them in my office that if you do not have a process that reflects the north side, you know, people are not going to support this, you know, where you're thinking about having a performance art venue, you're thinking about having housing, hotels, you know, businesses, etc. And so,
what's the dollar amount on this project? Like, I know there's a bonding bill. We'll talk about the bonding bill and, you know, what the state's going to appropriate towards this project. But overall, can you tell the audience a little bit about what's the actual projected expense or cost for this project?
You know, I'm sorry, I don't know the actual number.
Yeah, $500 million development project.
I think about that level, and at least from the state perspective, back in 2018, I was able to secure $15 million for the public infrastructure to set up this this project, and now we're asking the state for $12.5 million for a performance art venue, and this is just one piece of the actual development that you're thinking about too, and so. We're putting in public dollars into this, and so we really need this to be reflective of the community. Yeah. And I believe that there's more than my counterparts at the city and the park board level needs to do to actually get people to be engaged in the process. Yeah. And for me, I understand some of the concerns that community members have, but I really want us to get this money because at the end of the day, it's kind of going back to our earlier conversation where I have colleagues over at the Capitol who are fine not giving North Minneapolis any money that they want.
They sleep well at night.
Spend it somewhere else. Yeah. And, I understand some of the issues that folks have brought up, because of COVID-19, the civil unrest after the murder of George Floyd. And, people are out, and some of the homeless encampments that we're seeing in the city of Minneapolis and South Minneapolis are saying, why are you, giving $10 million for a project that may not, represent the community or may not go forward. I say that, this is a jobs piece and, this is investment on the north side where we can actually get young people and, folks from our community to be employed in some of these jobs so that we could address some of these violence that we're seeing in our community too. But, at the end of the day, it needs to be reflective of our community. And so that's why I'm so grateful that, you yourself, Elijah, and Cal, and other community members are, wanting to get involved in the process, and whatever I could do to help facilitate that discussion with the city so that we can make it something that the folks on the north side wants. I want to be able to help with that.